The sound of my boots echoed down the corridor like a funeral march conducted by a particularly judgmental metronome. Two guards flanked me, both at least a head taller and a full spectrum of colors more intimidating. Their armor shimmered like liquid chrome, alive with tiny lights that crawled across their bodies in complex alien patterns. I tried not to stare, mostly because one of them had a spear that looked like it could erase a person from existence, and the other was humming a song that sounded suspiciously like my impending doom. We reached the end of the corridor where the air seemed to shift, thicker, charged with a hum that made my teeth itch. The massive doors ahead were carved from what looked like crystallized lightning, pulsing faintly as if the palace itself were breathing. Beyond them I could hear the murmur of the Queen's court, a collection of whispers, mechanical chirps, and the occasional sound of something slithering. Not the most comforting audience. The doors parted with the elegance of an opening wound, and light flooded the hall. I stepped forward, blinking against the radiance, and there she was, the alien queen. She stood at the center of a raised dais, framed by curtains of living light. Her figure was human enough to unsettle me in ways I refused to admit, but her long, tapering ears gave her an otherworldly majesty. They flickered faintly with every emotion, as though they were attuned to the pulse of her mind. Her eyes were sharp, a shade of silver blue that could freeze oceans, or melt steel, depending on her mood. I did the only sensible thing a failed soldier could do. I dropped to one knee, head bowed. The sound of my armor scraping against the floor echoed through the hall. I stayed like that, still as stone, pretending I could somehow disappear into the floor if I concentrated hard enough. Human, her voice carried, soft yet edged with command. It was like being spoken to by a symphony that had recently decided to dabble in intimidation. You were sent to negotiate peace. Instead, you brought chaos. Do you have anything to say for yourself? I opened my mouth, but the translator chip embedded in my neck sparked, hissed, and produced a noise that sounded like a dying toaster. Several of the Queen's advisors tilted their heads in confusion. One of them, a short, amphibious-looking being, made a bubbling noise that I suspected was laughter. The Queen frowned. Was that an attempt at communication? I slapped the side of my neck. Apologies, Your Majesty. My translator's having a nervous breakdown. It's been through a lot lately, like me. A ripple of amusement passed through the court. I dared a glance upward. The Queen's lips quirked slightly, the faintest suggestion of a smile. For one glorious second I thought I might survive this. Then her expression hardened again. "Why do you refuse to face me, human?" she demanded. The hall's lights dimmed as though the palace itself was holding its breath. My throat felt dry. "I don't refuse, it's complicated." "Complicated," she echoed, tilting her head. Her long ears twitched, the tips glowing faintly. "Does the human language now redefine cowardice as complication?" One of the guards snorted. I wasn't sure if it was a laugh or a warning. "No, Your Majesty," I said quickly. "I just figured eye contact might be hazardous to my continued survival." That earned a few chuckles. Even the Queen's expression softened a fraction. "You fear that my gaze will harm you." "I've seen what happens to people who annoy you," I said. "I prefer to remain in one piece, preferably the same number of pieces I arrived in." Her voice dropped, smooth as silk but sharp as a blade. "Then face me and prove you are not what your kind has claimed, fragile, faithless, and afraid." The silence that followed was unbearable. The air vibrated faintly, humming like a star engine idling at the edge of war. My pulse thudded in my ears. Slowly I lifted my head. The moment my eyes met hers, the world seemed to tilt. She was beautiful, yes, but not in any human way. There was something ancient and fierce in her, as if galaxies had been spun from her breath. Her gaze wasn't cruel, but it wasn't gentle either. It saw everything, every mistake, every scar, every secret I wished I could hide. Her brow furrowed, a small crease forming between her silver eyes. She studied me, not as an enemy, but as a puzzle she hadn't expected to find interesting. I felt the heat of her scrutiny, like standing too close to a reactor core. "You do not look defiant," she said finally. "You look broken." "I prefer strategically damaged," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. The court erupted into a wave of murmurs. One of the advisors made a noise like a strangled flute. The queen blinked then, to my shock, laughed, a low, melodic sound that rippled through the hall like a soft explosion. "Strategically damaged," she repeated, tasting the words. "A curious phrase. You humans have a way of dressing ruin in poetry." "It's a coping mechanism," I said. "We developed it right after we realized the universe doesn't care about our plans." For a moment the tension cracked. The queen's expression lingered somewhere between irritation and reluctant amusement. "You are either brave or very foolish." "I've been told it's a blend," I said. 50-50, depending on the lighting." The laughter that followed wasn't cruel. Even the guards seemed less statuesque, though one still kept his spear uncomfortably close to my throat. The queen descended from her dais, her steps light, almost soundless. When she stood before me, I could see the intricate glow beneath her skin, a faint luminescence that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. "You came to make peace," she said quietly, "and yet you kneel before me in shame. Tell me, human, what do you see when you look at me?" I hesitated, then answered honestly. "Someone who deserves better than what we gave her." Her expression changed, just slightly but enough. Her long ears lowered, the glow softening. For a heartbeat the room felt smaller, more human somehow. Then she stepped back, the regal mask sliding into place once more. "Perhaps," she said, "there is more to you than failure." I wasn't sure whether that was mercy or mockery, but when the guards finally pulled me to my feet, I caught the faintest trace of a smile at the corner of her mouth. And for the first time since I'd set foot on this alien world, I wasn't entirely certain who was judging whom. They escorted me to what I assumed was a holding chamber, but turned out to be something between a prison and a luxury spa, designed by someone who had read one too many manuals on human psychology. The walls pulsed gently with bioluminescent veins, the air was warm, and a pleasant scent like ozone and citrus lingered. There was even a bed, though it was shaped suspiciously like a dissecting table. I sat on it anyway. Comfort is relative when your alternative is execution. I wasn't there long before the door shimmered open and she entered. No guards, no entourage, just her, wearing less armor, more curiosity. The long ears that marked her species twitched subtly, alive with motion like the wings of a patient creature watching prey decide whether to run. "Your kind is strange," she said, circling the room as though inspecting an artifact. "When faced with death, you make jokes." "It's a coping strategy," I said, leaning back against the Nata bed. "If I start screaming, you'll have to fill out paperwork." Her lips curved faintly. "You assume we bother with such bureaucracy. We do not. When I destroy someone, the only record is the memory of it." "Well, that's one way to save on administrative costs." The smallest sound escaped her, half sigh, half laugh. "Do all humans attempt humor in the presence of their rulers?" "Only the good-looking ones," I said, then immediately regretted it. Her eyes glimmered like starlight refracted through water. Flattery as a defense mechanism. Effective in some cultures, fatal in others. "I'm hoping you're the first kind." "Perhaps I am undecided," she said, stepping closer. Her presence was magnetic, the air subtly electric, as if gravity itself leaned toward her. "Tell me, human soldier, why did you not speak before my court? You had the chance to defend your actions." I swallowed, the weight of the failed mission returning like a bruise I couldn't ignore. "Because words wouldn't change what happened. I led the team, I gave the order, people died, yours and mine. There's no speech that makes that noble." Her long ears tilted downward slightly, a gesture I was beginning to recognize as contemplation. "You assume I sought nobility. I sought truth. Do you humans always confuse the two?" "Pretty much," I said. "It's our favorite pastime, right after inventing things we regret." She studied me for a long moment, then tilted her head. "Regret, a curious thing. Your species clings to it as though it were treasure. It's what keeps us from doing the same stupid things twice. Does it? She asked softly. History suggests otherwise. I opened my mouth, realized she had me there, and closed it again. Fair point, I muttered. Still, some of us try. Her expression softened, the faintest shimmer of light tracing her skin. You are different from the others I've met. The generals, the diplomats, they arrive with masks, lies, and false confidence. You come with silence and guilt. It is almost refreshing. I'm glad my emotional dysfunction is appreciated across species lines. She took another step forward, until we were standing close enough that I could see the faint patterns etched into her irises, tiny constellations spinning like galaxies. You confuse me, human, she said quietly. You failed. You should beg for forgiveness or lash out in pride. Instead, you kneel, you joke, you apologize. Which of these is your true self? All of them, I said. That's the fun part of being human. We contain multitudes, mostly chaos. Her ears flicked upward, amusement glinting briefly. Chaos, yes, that I believe. Something changed in her then. The tension that had coiled between us since the throne room eased, replaced by curiosity. She moved to the window, if it could be called that, a pane of living crystal showing the swirling storms of her planet's upper atmosphere. The colors rippled in violent beauty, emerald and violet clouds colliding in silence. Do you fear me? She asked without turning. I'm trying not to, I said. It's a struggle. You have this aura. The kind that makes people rethink their life choices. Good, she said. Fear is a form of respect. Then I respect you immensely, I said. Her laughter returned, softer this time. You are either fearless or hopelessly foolish. Again, I prefer to think of it as a blend. She looked back at me, and for the first time I noticed a trace of weariness behind the sharpness of her eyes. Do you think I am cruel? I hesitated. I think you've had to be. Her gaze lingered on me a moment longer, and something unreadable passed between us. Understanding, maybe, or the faint spark of something neither of us would name. Then she turned toward the door, her composure settling like armor. You will remain here tonight. Tomorrow you will tell me what truly happened on the moon of Varus 9, every detail, even the embarrassing parts, especially those. The door shimmered closed behind her, leaving me alone with the rhythmic hum of the palace walls. I lay back on the alien Nata bed, staring at the bioluminescent veins pulsing above me, wondering how in all the infinite universe I'd ended up being psychoanalyzed by an alien queen who laughed at my jokes. A faint voice drifted through the intercom, a guard probably. Human, are you awake? Depends, I said. Is this a friendly check-in or a pre-execution countdown? Silence then, just checking, your heart rate spiked. The walls can sense it. Fantastic, I muttered. Even the architecture-s judging me now. The voice hesitated, then added almost shyly, she does not laugh for anyone else. Before I could answer, the line went dead. The hum of the walls deepened, like the heartbeat of a living world surrounding me. Somewhere beyond the crystalline corridors, the queen walked alone, perhaps thinking of the human who made her laugh. I smiled at the ceiling, exhaustion settling like a blanket. For the first time since the mission's failure, I felt the smallest flicker of hope. Not the loud kind that roared promises of redemption, but the quiet one that whispered maybe, just maybe, I wasn't doomed after all. When morning arrived, if you could call it morning on a planet with 3 suns and an erratic rotation, the light in my chamber pulsed like a heartbeat. The walls parted soundlessly, and the queen's voice came through a soft chime in the air. Human come. 2 guards arrived, though by now they seemed more like confused chaperones than captors. They escorted me through the palace's inner rings, corridors made of translucent metal where streams of energy flowed beneath the floor like rivers of light. Every few steps, something in the architecture seemed to breathe. It was impossible to tell where machine ended and organism began. The throne hall was empty this time. No court, no advisors, only her. She stood by the great window that looked out over her city, towers shaped like frozen lightning, bridges of shimmering plasma, and ships that glided through the sky like silver birds. When she turned, I noticed she wasn't wearing her crown, just a simple robe that shimmered faintly with its own gravity field. "You slept?" she asked. "Define sleep," I said. "If you mean I closed my eyes and thought about every bad decision I've ever made, then yes, excellent rest." Her long ears twitched. "You are consistent at least, sit." I obeyed, lowering myself onto the same dais where I had knelt before her just days ago. Now it felt less like judgment and more like conversation between uneasy allies. "You said you wanted the truth about Varus 9, I began. "You'll have it. We were sent to broker peace, but someone in my command, someone above me, had already decided that peace wasn't profitable. The talks were a front. The weapons were hidden in our diplomatic shuttle." Her eyes narrowed. "You knew." "I found out too late. When I tried to stop it, the munitions triggered a containment breach. Your people died. Mine too. I barely survived." The air vibrated faintly, a low hum like the sound of an approaching storm. Her expression didn't change, but her ears folded inward, the tips glowing with restrained fury. "And yet you came here." "I came because someone had to tell you the truth, and because guilt is a bad travel companion. It never shuts up." For a moment she was silent. The energy veins in the walls dimmed, responding to her mood. Then she said quietly, "You risked execution to confess this." I shrugged. "Technically, I risked it by existing. This just makes it official." Something flickered behind her composure, an emotion too complex to name. She stepped closer, her gaze sharp but not cruel. "You are either the bravest human I have met or the most foolish." "Like I told you," I said, 50-50 odds. That earned me a soft exhale, the ghost of a laugh. The tension that had hovered between us since the first day thinned, replaced by something more fragile. She studied me again, as though trying to read a language no one had spoken in centuries. "When I first saw you kneel," she said, "I thought you were defiant. Then I saw your eyes and realized you were broken. Now I see you were something else entirely." "What's that?" "Whole," she said simply, "but in a way that includes your cracks." That might have been the first compliment I'd ever received from a monarch who could vaporize me with a thought. "I'll take that as progress," I said. "Progress," she repeated thoughtfully. "Yes. Between our worlds, perhaps that word still has meaning." She turned toward the vast window again. The city shimmered under the tri-sunlight, alive with the hum of energy and life. "I could declare vengeance," she said. "My advisors expect it. The empire thirsts for justice, but justice born of pride is only vengeance by another name." I stood, unsure whether to speak. "If it means anything, Your Majesty, I'm sorry. Not the bureaucratic kind of sorry, not the one you write in reports. The kind that doesn't fix anything but needs to be said anyway." Her eyes met mine, silver fire meeting human uncertainty. "It means something," she said. Silence stretched, long and steady. Then she did the unthinkable. She knelt. It was not a grand motion, not ceremonial, but quiet, graceful as gravity surrendering. The guards at the door froze. My heart nearly forgot how to beat. "Your people will call this weakness," she said softly. "Mine will call it madness. But if humility is madness, then let us both be fools." I didn't know what to do, so I knelt too. The floor beneath us pulsed faintly, light rippling out in concentric rings. Two shapes, one human, one alien, mirroring each other under the gaze of a living palace. Then, from the back of the hall, a sudden crash broke the solemnity. One of the guards, perhaps thinking he should follow the Queen's example, tried to kneel and smacked his helmet against his spear with a hollow clang. The sound echoed for several mortifying seconds. The Queen blinked, then laughed. It wasn't the restrained, regal sound from before. It was genuine, bright, unexpected. I couldn't help joining in. The guard stood frozen, unsure whether to apologize or flee, which made it funnier. When the laughter faded, the Queen rose. "Perhaps peace begins with absurdity," she said. "Then we're off to a great start," I replied. Over the following days, things began to shift. I wasn't treated as a prisoner anymore, but as an emissary of sorts. Together, she and I drafted the first charter for cooperation between our species. The process was slow, clumsy, and full of mistranslations, especially the part where her advisors kept confusing treaty with desert. But slowly, impossibly, it worked. And somewhere in those long hours of negotiation and argument, I began to change. The guilt that had once been my anchor